Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the what they talked about a little bit in education at the town hall forum.
Charter schools were allowed to expand with no oversight. That was a big mistake by this governor. I wouldn't expect my opponent with his record to sign into law oversight of charter schools. I will do it. I will do it when I am governor.
They're not unregulated. There's authorizers behind them, and the Department of Education helps provide oversight. One thing I can tell you, though, is I think we need higher standards for all schools, both charters and traditional public schools. We need to raise that bar. We need to raise those standards.
All right, effective argument coming. I'm going to start with you first, Stephen, about the charter school debate.
I mean, I think there are a lot. I mean, certainly we have spent a lot of time at the Free Press talking about the lack of regulation over charter schools, the problems with charter schools staying open when they don't perform. I think the governor's answer here is as good as it can be. That look, let's raise standards for all schools. Schauer, of course, is more focused on hammering away at charter schools and certainly the for-profit schools. And I think there are a lot of people that are concerned about that. I mean, I think that probably landed well with a lot of people in the state who are unsure about how all that's working.
Schauer's carrying the MAA's water on this. If he were elected, I think charter schools would have a very difficult time staying open. I think most would wither away, eliminating an important choice a lot of parents have, particularly parents who are trapped in failing public school districts that Schauer and the MAA don't seem so concerned about raising their performance or raising their accountability. The governor mentioned at one point that he's giving charter schools less and public schools more. I think that was a bad answer. I mean, if you're going to expect these charter schools to innovate and yet you're going to underfund them and saddle them with the same restrictive rules that traditional schools are under, I think you can't expect this experiment to be as successful as it should be. I would have loved to hear him say, hey, we're going to unshackle the innovation of charter schools and let them go.
You just gave him credit for what he was doing with MIPSers. That's how he's funding public schools more. Charter schools don't have unfunded liabilities. They don't have legacy costs.
In this conversation, they never get to the fact that in Detroit, for example, a charter school is spending about $7,100 per pupil, and a public school spending up to about $13,000. That's a huge, huge difference, and it's not all going in the retirement
Most
fund.
of it is going to fixed costs that charter schools don't have, which is unfunded liabilities, the capital costs that public schools have that a lot of charter schools don't. They're different in the way that they spend money. It's also true that charter schools, a lot of them spend less in the classroom as a result. I think that's a bad thing. I agree. We ought to be spending more in every classroom, charter and public. I'm not sure why that's
I don't think it's fair to ask charter school teachers who are not necessarily going to draw a pension, they're in 401k plans, to fund the pensions of other people.
Well, they're not.
They certainly are.
No, they're not.
They certainly are.
How are they doing that?
Because the money that would have gone into their schools are going into the public schools to pay these pension costs.
Because they're fixed costs. I mean, you can't just do away with them. How would you pay for it?
You cut the foundation grant for the charter schools to fund these pension costs, and these teachers aren't going to draw.
They cut the foundation
These people aren't going to draw
grant
pensions.
to all schools. Everybody got a foundation grant cut in the first year. That wasn't unique to charter schools.
It's been going up ever since, and charter schools have not kept pace.
All right, I'm going to bring it back a little bit to the town hall forum debate, and you can watch the town hall forum with Stephen and Nolan here every Thursday night. But let me bring it back to the debate and to the issue of Detroit. I thought it was a very interesting moment in the town hall with both Mark Schauer and Rick Snyder addressing what has happened in the city of Detroit. And Mark Schauer not saying that he wouldn't have done it the same way. Let's go ahead and take a look.
I'm not questioning whether the city of Detroit needed to go bankrupt, but I would have personally led rather than having an unelected, unaccountable person do it.
My goal is to have the emergency manager come in, do their job, get out, be done, and get it back to the community with good oversight, though, so it doesn't fall backwards. Stop and think. Have you ever thought you'd see Detroit as well poised for a bright future as you see today?
I thought that was interesting when Mark Schauer said, well, I would have led and just kind of would have done it. I'm not quite sure that was the best answer. And
I don't know what he's talking about.
I mean,
that was the lamest moment of the debate, I thought, other than the governor on gay marriage, but that was the lamest moment of the debate.
I think you can argue different points on how the process has gone over the last couple of years, and especially people who live in the city of Detroit who did not like emergency management. But we're now weeks away, possibly, from emerging from bankruptcy. Is this something that you will see the governor now use more on the campaign trail?
I think this is one of his strongest, one of the strongest points of his record, that he did something that I don't think we would ever have seen a Democratic governor do. It was risky, but bold. Let's zero it out. Let's stop this sort of slow, steady decline and hit rock bottom and try to sort of rocket back in the other direction. I think he's got a good story to tell there, and that, people respond to that. At the same time, Mark Schauer doesn't seem to be able to wrap his mouth around an understandable alternative. I would have personally led in Detroit. What does that mean? I mean, this idea that you could have worked with the political structure in Detroit to get a bankruptcy together. I mean, that's what they tried in Vallejo, California. That's what they've tried in some of these other places. That's why those places are stuck in bankruptcies for years at a time.
And to think that he was going to personally run the city during this period, I mean, he would have had a whole state to run. I mean, the governor hired an emergency manager accountable to him. That's what a governor is supposed to do. That's what a CEO is supposed to do. And, at one moment, Schauer said, well, I would work in Cadillac Place a couple days. The Governor's did
there every
work
Wednesday.
in Cadillac Place a day or two a week. He spent about 20% of his time during that crucial period on Detroit. And I mean, no governor has engaged as much in Detroit in 50 years. And it's okay. I mean, it would have been okay for Schauer to have said, everything this guy's done isn't bad. He's had some successes, including, thankfully, Detroit,
Yeah, but I don't think he could say that.
Well,
He could not.
I think the way to say that would have been to spin it forward, right? To say, over the next 4 years, Detroit is going to require, just like every other city in this state, a lot more investment at the state level, and we need to really examine the way we finance local government. He could have made a good case that Rick Snyder has shied from both of those issues, and that Mark Schauer would do it differently. I don't know why he didn't. I don't know why he didn't bring that up during the debate. But
all right,
it was
so
a missed opportunity.
going from a low point for Mark Schauer and a high point for the governor, we're going to flip it around now and talking about gay marriage. Go ahead and take a look.
I'm going to wait for the opinion to come down. That's a hypothetical, but I will respect what happens in our court system, and I think that's where the issue is going to be decided.
Where do you stand on the issue?
Well, again, I'm waiting for the outcome from the courts.
Now, his statement leads you to believe he has no position. This governor, through his own legislature, banned domestic partner benefits for gay and lesbian state employees. His tough choices are tough on all the wrong people.
I think it was also interesting that Mark Schauer said there won't be any discrimination in if I'm governor, and also equated it to an economic part to the state that people won't want to come here and work in Michigan.
I think the anti-gay nature of our laws right now probably does hurt us. I mean, there are other states where you can go and be equal. Why would you choose Michigan? I think that sort of impassioned intonation he had about equality and anti-discrimination was the right way to answer that question. I thought the governor fell pretty flat, just saying, well, let's not prejudge the court case. But that's sort of the way he has handled all of those kinds of issues. And I wrote a column after the debate that I think that is the most significant difference between these two men in terms of the way they approach these issues. The governor will not engage that way, and I think there are a lot of voters who want the state's leader to do that. Mark Schauer will, but then can't tell you enough about, in detail, how he would get to where he wants to go.
Well, I didn't expect the governor to come out of the closet and say, yeah, I support gay marriage at this debate. He did not want that to be the headline the next day, and it would have been. But he could have had a more nuanced answer. I mean, the governor has been behind this push to expand the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to cover gays, lesbians, transgendered residents. He could have said that, and he could have said, I'm doing this because the business community thinks it's the right thing to do. It probably still wouldn't have been a great answer, but would have been a better answer than saying, well, I'm going to wait until I see what the courts say before I decide my own position
Well, and
on gay marriage.
And we've asked him about Elliot Larson a couple of times during edit boards. He's fallen flat there too. I mean, he won't come out and say what he wants. What he says is, look, the legislature needs to take that up and do what they want to do, and then I'll look at it.
But this initiative did start in his office, whether he
there's
takes
no
credit
question.
for it or not, and he could have sort of at least muted the criticism a little bit with a better answer.
All right, let's look real quick, and I labeled this last piece of tape zingers. So it was just a couple things that struck out to me. Mark Schauer referred to the governor as Rick multiple times.
The whole time.
And the governor got a little angry. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Now, it is true that Rick cut. It is a fact that with Rick as governor, Rick said that was overblown.
I think it's somewhat disgusting that he's impinging on a good person's name. So this is a professional politician, again, making up stuff.
Okay, well, I have to explain that when he's talking about impinging on a good person's name, he was talking about the contract that his cousin has for office furniture in the state. But I wanted to kind of put together, so there was a little of that chippy tone there. Why would Mark Schauer refer to the governor as Rick?
We asked him that. He came in for his endorsement interview the day after the debate, and we said, well, you know, he called you congressman. Nolan and I called him congressman, and we called the governor governor. Why were you calling him Rick? He said, well, because that's how he sort of seems, right? He said, this is an informal guy who doesn't wear a tie all the time. He seems sort of folksy, so he thought that was appropriate.
Sounds like he likes you.
I wanted to say, you know, I don't think the two of you are friends, so
That's a
that
lot
might
of
not
malarkey.
be.
I mean, that was intentional. I mean, because if it wasn't intentional, it would have happened every single time. At one point, you would have forgotten and said the governor or Governor Snyder.
Sure.
I mean, it was intentional to sort of minimize the governor's standing there. I mean, the governor is the incumbent. And so, you know, I think that was intentional. The governor, I mean, just simply
the governor
threw out seeds.
and also to call him a politician, a career politician. Would you say now, after the governor's been in office for 4 years, he's quite a little bit of a politician himself?
Well, he's getting better at it, but I mean, the governor has done other things in his life. Mark Schauer's always been on the public trough.
All right. Well,
What kind of statement is that? Public trust. It's public service. I mean, the idea that government service is somehow
Makes him a
ignoble
career.
is crazy.
Nobody's saying that, but he is certainly a career politician. He's done nothing else.
all right. Okay. So, real quick, in the last couple seconds we have left on this topic, who gets the bounce from this? Who gets the momentum from this? Or does this just poof go in the air?
I don't know that there's a lot of momentum coming out of this. I think the possibility for momentum was Schauer's to turn it around. I don't really see how that performance, you know, as decent as it was, is gonna turn things in an opposite direction. I think it's a draw in terms of momentum.
Okay. What about you, Noel?
Already had a trend line going toward the governor with a 4% poll, then a 6%, then an 8%. I didn't see anything that happens that night that would slow that trend line. I think he's going to continue to widen his lead as these weeks close.